Right now we're going to get into the sort of first phase of our workshop. So what we're going to be doing today in sort of 2 chapters is we're going to be using and bringing together our collective smarts in a really creative way and fun way to think together about how do we grow this movement, how do we engage more people, what would it look like from a campaign standpoint for us to really take that next step together. So we are working with our partners from Solidarity. There are literally our neighbors in Burlington, Vermont, the 1% for the Planet office in Vermont. They're also nationally recognized, amazing creative designers. And so they've done some other campaigns with us. They've done some work with Patagonia. They may have done some work with others of you in the room. But with them, we've put together a sort of 2-part campaign planning session that you're going to help us be involved with. So we're going to start off right now. Michael Jager, who's the principal at Solidarity, will be giving a short presentation about the work that we'll be doing together. And then we'll be breaking into the groups that are on your name tags so you all know your numbers. And we're going to be equipping you with some creative tools that you will use both during lunch and then also in our end of day session. So we'll give you all the instructions about that, but just so you know that that's what's coming. So we're doing a little technical setup, and I think Michael is just about ready. And then we'll dive into it. So sorry that we'll be a few minutes late for lunch, but I think that should be okay, and then we'll get it rolling. Are you all ready?
All right. Here we are. So actually coming in here this morning, watching you guys all file in here, seeing these pews, there was a word that kept popping into my mind. I guess it's more appropriate than ever. So hallelujah. Here we are. There's actually a presentation, and hallelujah that all these minds are here together. This is an incredible opportunity, an amazing morning. So thanks, Kate. Thanks for everybody helping to pull this all together. So this is what we're here to celebrate and to do. So I'm going to talk to you about a little project that we're going to do together, and I'm going to move kind of quickly because we got a little bit of a late start. But this spark point is really an important aspect of what we're doing and a lot of the reason that we're here. One of the things about this that has always resonated with me, not only the brilliance of how clear and powerful this writing is and its intention, but the thing that really has stuck with me is this word right here. The fact that Patagonia uses a mission statement that actually calls it what it is. It isn't a soft-pedaled kind of, well, there's environmental challenges that we face. We are in the middle of a crisis, and I think it's really important that we look at that. That is the reality of what we're facing. And when you see these images, they're both the ugly truth of the crisis that we exist in, but also there's moments of real activism and positive possibility and intention of making change here as well. You'll see some things from Greenpeace and other components in here. But I think it's important that we realize we have to bring a level of urgency to our agency. That is something that has to happen here. And when we get this many minds together and get an opportunity to take our thinking to another level, it's really a gift to have that. But this is the reality. It is truly a crisis, and it's something that demands, as I said, this urgency to our agency is what we need to be thinking about. So what we're going to do today is something that hopefully will be fun for you. There's an idea that is something that I really appreciate and enjoy in exercises that bring a lot of minds together. Carolee mentioned collaboration earlier, which is really an important and beautiful thing, and it is the ability for people to play well together. But one of the things that's interesting is when you think about collaboration, it is many times just that. A lot of the teaching around it is like, how do you work together? How do you get multidisciplines to work well together? And that's part of it, but the benefit of collaboration is transcendent thinking. And the surrealists actually used to do these writing exercises where they would collide and they would cut up writing and they would cut up images. And their belief is when they collided their ideas together, they created a third mind. And I think that's the way we need to think about collaboration. If you bring multiple disciplines together and you bring the right minds together with different perspectives and different insights with clear intention, you can actually hit this sort of third mind level. And that's what we're going to do today. So we're going to do a workshop that tries to create this like other level of thinking by getting the right multidiscipline teams together, thinking about the right things. But it's truly possible to do this, which to me is the next level of beyond collaboration. So what are we going to do together? We're going to do an interactive exercise. We're going to break into 17 different teams. So this entire group is going to be broken up very selectively into teams to work together. But what we're trying to do is create a campaign platform for 1% for the planet. So that's what unifies us all. But it's got to be a campaign and a platform that speaks to the individuals, the companies, the nonprofits, the world. One of the things that's a reality is the reason that this matters is that there aren't enough people that understand 1%. Like, what is 1% for the planet about? How does it work? I'm sure you all run into that even as members, a lot of people struggle to explain it. A lot of people struggle to understand it. There's many, many people, certainly the group here understands the value of it and the intention of it, but we certainly need platform help and creative help to work together to help more people understand it so it can magnetically pull more people into the network. So this is really why it matters, is we need education and awareness. One thing that Kate and I have talked about a number of times, I try to find little metaphorical things that help me explain and understand what an idea is about. And one thing we've talked about with 1% for the Planet is, have any of you ever been to Hood River in Oregon? So a lot of you have been there. What an amazing place. And one of the reasons it's amazing is because it's a venturi. And that, in a sense, is the metaphor for me of what 1% for the planet is. So the ocean winds come in, and there's this funnel that it goes through. There's this pinch in the throat of what happens before it hits the gorge. And when it comes through the other side, that venturi actually takes the wind to a higher level than anywhere on the planet. And that venturi effect, in a sense, is exactly what 1% for the planet does. It takes all of this giving and individual and corporate and everything that comes together, and it channels it through this network of passion and energy and knowledge and awareness and connection, and it just jets it out the other side with more power than it ever could have had on its own on the other side. So in a sense, that's what 1% for the planet is. So we need to find ideas like that we can help people understand the beauty and the power and the potential of what 1% for the planet is. So hopefully we'll unlock a few things like that today. So our creative platform has to do a number of things. And I'll go through these very quickly, but these are key. The idea needs to be actionable. Things like the oath of action is a very good example of that. And that happened in a very simple thing. It was some friends from Skinny Pancake and from Ben & Jerry's. We were at a 1% for the Planet event. We were hanging out in a gallery space, and the inauguration was coming up, and we knew that oath was going to be happening in DC. And that triggered this moment of we need to make our own oath of action. But what was good about it, it was an actionable idea, but it was also an adaptable idea, because it could adapt to whatever oath you wanted to make as an individual, as a company. It allowed you to adapt what your beliefs were about and channel them in the right way. So we need ideas that are actionable, they need to be adaptable, they need to be emotional. People need to feel what we're doing. We've got to deliver emotional ideas, and some of that has to be really, really powerful, hard-hitting messaging and ideas. It needs to be invitational. We need to welcome people into the idea. It needs to be relatable. People need to be able to get it and understand how does it relate to their local situation, not only on a global scale. So it's got to be relatable. It has to be memorable. We want people to be able to talk about what we're doing, to tell the story and have it really embedded in their memories as to what it is that 1% for the Planet does and the members of 1% of the Planet. It should be so compelling that people would share it. There needs to be a radical nature to this. One of the things that we want to test the boundaries of today, when you look at the activist side of what's happening in the world and the crisis point that I made in the beginning, we have to be willing to take a stand on how our ideas are presented almost in a radical way at times. And if you look at some of the beautiful things that Greenpeace has done along the way, they've done some things that create images that are incredibly memorable and shareable, but they're pretty radical in the way they think about it. When they drop a sign in off a dam or a bridge, it's a powerful thing. And those things are all kind of radical ways of thinking that we can tell our stories a little differently. And the conviction with what we deliver our ideas through needs to be undeniable. People need to know that it's real. And it's authentic, and it's certainly clear to all of us here that conviction never tested is truly no conviction at all. So our efforts need to be undeniable. So, okay, after all that, so what are we actually going to do together? There's a couple of fun components that will come together here. We're going to do a brainstorm, which is going to be a working lunch, but it'll be a fun lunch because you're going to have a little friend that you're going to bring along with you to lunch. So we are asking you to work through lunch, but it'll be a fun process. From 4 to 4:30, there will be a brainstorming reconnection that'll happen where you curate a little bit where your ideas went during lunch. And then 4:30 to 5:30, each one of the teams is going to have one presenter come up who is their spokesperson who's going to deliver the one idea out of the many you will generate, and you're going to present your one idea in 2 minutes that we think we should focus on an effort that communicates this. So we're going to see at a minimum 17 brilliant ideas from 17 incredible teams, but we will document every single thing that happens, and you'll see how we're going to do that. So that's what is going to happen today as far as the process. We have mix-mastered the teams here, so you have a number on your name tag, and that is the team that you're going to be connected to. And we deliberately mixed you up with people that you don't know, and multiple disciplines, so you're going to be working with a group of people and having lunch with a group of people that will hopefully be new to you. And we did that for a reason, because we want to mash really unique individuals and perspectives together, large and small and different talents and skills. There are a number of different creative things that we're going to look at, and I'm going to show you a little tool that we'll use. So you're all going to get a friend to bring to lunch, which is this. So we have 24 of these, and they each have a concept on them. They each have working areas on them, so you may be working on newsletter ideas, influencers, grassroots tactics, and you're going to be drawing out, sketching ideas, writing ideas on these pieces. We have 24 of these boxes, so we're going to build our own damn wall. It's going to be insane. You'll have worksheets, so you can sketch out your ideas as you go. So you'll get your concepts, and you can work out ideas, and then you'll determine as a team what goes in the curated big idea zone as to how you want it to work. And we're going to build all of these up. These are some of the creative ideas. So what we've done is we channeled a few concepts that you can start with. There's a number of things you can play with, and I'll run through these quickly. If you have another idea that you want to explore, that's absolutely open. You can just use the open space. Everything's welcome. But we wanted to give you a few places to start, and I can explain a couple of those, and then we'll be handing out the cubes to the teams. All right? So let me share a couple of them. Together, we are the EPA. So in reality, as we look at the scary potential of the dismantling of it, we are the EPA was something that we looked at as an idea that we are the environmental protection and really activists is what's happening. So hello, it's get it together time. Together we give stronger. Together we can clean oceans. So you have adaptability and actionability within these. So these could be leaping points from this, but the main message could be 1% for the planet. Together we are the EPA, and it takes on a unique responsibility. With Earth Day upon us, once more, just Earth needs you. The urgency of calling out and looking for help and assistance. Give action a chance. We stand with planet Earth. Give power to the people who make clean ocean change happen. Give for action. So these are leap points that could become hashtags and all different kinds of components, but these are components you'll have in the mix. Give, it's a matter of life and earth. give a damn, our only home needs us, action needs you, resist not giving a damn. These are other spark ideas that are just directional starting points. These are all relevant components as to what we need the campaign to do, the idea of giving, orientation around the planet, togetherness, an intelligent choice, the accelerating effect, like that Venturi idea of exactly what 1% does. So there are cubes that have these as well. So you can make a leaping point. You may have a concept just totally about togetherness, and that may be what you work from. So what you'll see is where we'd like you to channel these ideas is because you can hit a concept, but it has to have the ability to actually flow into communication. So some of you will have events, online advertising, packaging ideas to work on. You'll have social media, in-store signage, print advertising. So these are the types of tools that you can fill in. If you have other approaches and tactics that you've used or you'd like to, you certainly can add those in. But these are just to help give you some structure to work within. And then the very last few creative thoughts, these are a couple of bonus tracks that we were playing with. Something's got to give, and that something is us. The crisis is real, support real action. There are no inaction heroes, a very Yvonne idea. Let's make a bigger bang together. So I won't get into all the details down below, but it's basically trying to find hashtags and flow lines that can help the ideas extend. So these will be in the worksheets that you have. So if you're like, I don't know about the Earth Needs You thing, you can find other things to play with. All right? So we have cubes for every team. So have you all looked at your team numbers? Ideally, what you've done is you've taken your cube, the team has worked to identify a creative path that they like based on one of the ideas that we shared or that you've created a new one, and you've started to channel into activating those. And there's likely through the worksheets a number of ideas. We will photograph everything, we'll collect everything. None of the ideas will not be read and looked at and considered, so don't feel any of your energy is going to be lost. But you do need to be editors. So you have to decide here in this next 30 minutes as a team, what idea did you pick and why? And then what your activations are, and you have 3 activations each. You have to identify your spokesperson for your team, and then the team can come up together and bring your cube up, but you need your spokesperson in 2 minutes to explain, we chose this creative path for this reason, and we're going to activate it in these 3 ways. And then we're going to build the cubes up from here, but we'll have an amazing wall of conceptual power. All right? So that's what will happen. So, all right, team number 1, where are you? All right, awesome. Okay, so team number 1 is coming up. And you're the spokesperson?
1 and 2, just the starting spokesperson.
All right, come on right up.
Thumbs
So
up.
everybody, if you could pay attention, so we are going to go in order. So team number 1 is going to present their concept, the direction they chose, and the actionable ideas they want to move forward with. And then we're going to do a quick photo of each team as well. So, but take it away. You're up.
Great. So my name is Whitney Flynn, based here in Boulder, Colorado. We started our conversation today with who do we actually want to target on the spectrum of believer and ready to act to doubter and it's going to take a long time to get through to me. We decided to stick really closely to this end of the spectrum and focus on folks that are already aware, they're looking for the right channel to do more. They probably have heard of 1% for the Planet before, and the action we want to see them take is that they become a business member. So we're looking at business decision makers on that end of the spectrum.
Cool. So the concept we went with is we are the 1% for the planet. And the 1 here from a graphic design perspective would have a mosaic of all of the 1% members. And ideally, this would be on a web page in which it would be clickable. And when you click on the image, it goes to a story that will tell something really positive about, for example, what Patagonia is doing and all of the, nonprofits that they funded. Oh. Yeah, so I'm a digital marketer, so when I approach looking at spreading this far and wide, of course, I looked to social media. So we would do a Facebook and YouTube video campaign that would explain the business case for being a part of 1%. So it would articulate the environmental crisis and the urgency behind, the state of the climate, while also promoting all of the beautiful stories of kind of the conglomeration of all these businesses and nonprofits. And then, I'm a little nervous talking to you guys. The point of the Facebook video campaign, or the YouTube video campaign as well, would be to kind of bring people into that story and make them feel part of it. And so we would, of course, follow up with storytelling over email. And then our influencers would be, obviously, the amazing network that 1% already has. We would tap into that network and bring everybody together. And then also, brand ambassadors like, Jack Johnson, for instance. And of course, we would want to target people who have, 2 million followers or more on Facebook and see if they want to get involved. And then as far as grassroots tactics, that always starts at the localized level. And so we would start community events, and then we would have campaigns where, something like, what did we decide on? Film festivals was one idea, kind of spreading that story via film, similar to Leonardo DiCaprio does. Regional open houses, and then inviting our members to invite and onboard new members with kind of a template that would allow you to kind of tell that narrative in a standardized way. So it would make it super easy for everybody to invite our current partners and network into the conversation.
And asking the 1% staff to hold all of us accountable for adding 1 to 3 members in the next year, and really try to leverage the momentum that we all have and the knowledge we have about who's the right fit, who would be a good 1% member for the right reasons. I think that's probably a pretty easy ask for all of us. I'd be happy to do it if I was asked. You wouldn't even have to give me
Consider yourself asked. So we are the one is the idea. So the collective of we, but one individual can make a difference. That's the big doorway in, but really thoughtfully done and really good stuff. Awesome. Team 1. We'll keep your cue.
Great, for the wall.
Yes,
Yeah.
the wall we're building. All right, team 2. All right. Welcome.
Hey, we're team 2. I'm Mark. This is Haj. We kind of thought that one of the most salient points brought up today came from Mr. Martinez this morning, and that activism itself isn't enough. So we kind of went off the rails and thought about, like, who else do we need to be talking to? And basically brands, the real people who drive change, from one point of view, definitely a top-down point of view. And we really latched onto the idea of making this radical. So our ad campaign, we kind of went a little bit off the chart here, crossed out you and the Earth needs you here. And our ad campaign looks Earth needs blank. And then I'm seeing this, in the subway system, New York, on billboards, wherever, written in things like Coca-Cola or Southwest or something like that.
Exxon.
Yeah, Exxon. I like it. It's provocative. I think it's radical.
Below that is also the invitation. So it says the potential future partner to FTP.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Sort of leads to this. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And so here's a little less radical, provocative one, but it's blank stands with planet Earth. That kind of messaging that's showing that big brands, even like Coca-Cola, who does a lot of pretty rough things to our planet, can do good and can join in with 1%. Part of this campaign is aligning with big brands, companies that are already kind of low-hanging fruit, things like Southwest Airlines or something, but also calling out brands that could be doing more, like United or Coke or something like that.
Yeah.
And then finally, creating we talked about creating lower barriers to entry for big brands like that who wanted to participate in 1%, such as like 1% of 1 day of sales kind of thing. Creating some little action like that where they could get on board and make things happen. Yeah. Anything else, Ash?
That's awesome.
I think that's it.
Really
Cool,
solid.
thanks, guys.
Nice job. That's killer. Well done. This really delivers on the adaptable idea. Like you can plug into this kind of a system. It's really, really smart. Great insight. Well done. Team 3. Welcome.
Mike.
Hey, John.
Hey everybody, my name is Josh, and this is Ashley. We're Team 3. And we're all of Team 3. All of our friends left us. I don't know what happened. So we were probably not necessarily the creative group. We had where was our thing? The front forward part. There we go. Earth Needs You. We had Earth Needs You as well. We talked more strategically about how we would go about doing this. So we didn't get into the details of the campaign per se. But we did talk about the idea of it's not just about how the earth needs you, but how the earth needs us as well. What do we have on the other side? So our focus was really about gaining awareness. It wasn't necessarily about driving big boxes. It wasn't necessarily about driving membership per se, but how do we gain awareness of 1%? And so tactically or strategically, how we talked about doing that was, how do we go about featuring and pulling in you guys, our member organizations, into this as well? And so we talked about using Patagonia, of course, as an example. So you could think through using social media, how we would tie in the power of community and focus on them as a member, and why are they specifically doing that? Why did they choose to become a member of 1% for the Planet? And so you kind of start out with some of the big hitters, of course, and then of course we could, over time begin to get into some of the secondary smaller companies as well. As far as in-store signage, we talked about things like using window decals in some of these stores, whether it's in Patagonia. Some of this stuff might already exist, I'm not really sure. But again, is there a way to get awareness out to individuals and anybody that might frequent the stores that actually would see and become aware of 1% for the Planet? Ashley's idea was about receipt stamps. So again, is there a way for us to focus on 1% for the Planet and get some information about what the organization is doing through those? Print advertising, similar idea, right? How can we go about getting folks aware of what's happening with 1% for the Planet? What else am I missing?
So we kind of messed up on the visual part of it, but the goal would be for the visual component would be to, thank you. The visual would be like highlighting in some sort of meaningful, personal way what the brands are doing. Like for example, for Patagonia, maybe it's like someone that runs one of the nonprofits, and then afterwards including, this part. So the things that we would focus on would be like the like really personal visual of whether it be Patagonia or like a brewery or a baking company, and then underneath we'd have this is a member and why, spotlighting the nonprofits they're working with, and then mandating nicely that the post is shared on their social media networks so that you guys are reaching further networks outside of the 1% community.
That's great.
Yep.
The us theme. So Earth Needs Us, another good edit. Well done, Team 3. Good stuff. Right on. Team 4. All right. Come on down. It's good. People are definitely stretching. It's nice to see the adaptability going on, and people are refining and changing directions. It's good.
Yeah, so we're Team 4. I'm Bill. This is Brian. Ours was Earth Needs You. We thought Earth needs youth. We want to give the youth a voice and make them part of the conversation. So we started out by thinking one way that we can implement that is targeting after-school programs. A lot of organizations that are already existing. So basically we'll use partner nonprofits and organizations and connect them with businesses to receive additional funding to help enhance their programs with the idea to engage more youth. So through a lot of these after-school programs, we want to get them outside, exposed to nature, out in the outdoors. We're going to let them talk about it. They're going to talk about it through channels that they're already using. So Instagram is kind of the main one. Then we're really going to promote a lot of it through YouTube. So the strategy there is to use existing infrastructure that the kids are already excited about. So yeah, the goal really is to connect youth with the outdoors, make them better and stewards of the environment, not only with their peers, but we feel like they can take a lot of that home and educate their families, make it cool to recycle, get them into composting, and just in general better stewards of the environment. And we've found through our own personal experiences that connecting with nature and being a part of it will naturally make you a better environmentalist. So yeah, the goal is again to connect them with the outdoors. Through that, they'll develop leadership skills. They'll also gain social recognition through their peers. We're talking about kids being attached to their phones all the time. Yeah, that's the case. Like, we may as well embrace that they're already on Instagram, so they can go out, they can get photos on these trips of cool places. They can be part of the story, part of the conversation. So for example, if they're in a 6-week program, after-school program, they work their way up. They get to go on the big day hike with really scenic views. They can take some awesome photos of it, put it on social media. They can kind of boast about it with their friends and really be part of that environmental conversation. So we're really trying to use existing platforms with channels that already exist without really having to invest in much more. The idea would just be to put together a simple template that you could give some of these local nonprofits and after-school programs where they can share the information with the kids and get them excited about it and kind of use a lot of what's already there and use them as a voice to inspire.
Brilliant. This is really good. When this crew was developing this downstairs, really wonderful job. It's like kids can be this idea of like Earth needs youth. Kids can be the Trojan horse. Like parents so desperately want to be cool, and you learn so much from your kids about what the right thing is. Like, we shouldn't underestimate the educational path that can have. But that was a really good insight that Earth needs youth. Team 5. Yep. There you go.
Thank you. This is Team 5, and it's Becky, Brenda, Lisa, and Barry. So we had Earth Needs You as well, and we sort of took off from that and said, you need Earth. So we want to turn this around a little bit, and we're working off some of the ideas that Shutezkat was talking about, and you take care of what you love, but we're disconnected. So what we wanted to do was to activate people's love of the Earth by getting them reconnected. Because you need Earth and you take care of what you love. So our channels were social media, in-store signage, and print advertising. And we use those a little bit. We separated them out a little bit, but they're very related. They can be hybrids of each other, different sort of levels of messaging across each of those. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to scare, educate, inspire, and then provide tools. So we were thinking about creating a challenge. We kind of used the Ice Bucket Challenge as sort of a model to say, look, this thing can really blow up if done well and right. So we wanted to get everyone engaged, thinking that a lot of people doing many small actions can make a difference, and thinking about the hashtag many small actions. And we thought we could gamify it by providing rewards, potentially giving people recognition through their name or the stories that they're featured, and also providing tools, like lists of things to do, but initially starting with social media, getting it rolling there, and then using in-store advertising and print collateral to give people lists of things, like a list of 10 things that you can do to get outside, once a month for the next 10 months, or every day for a week, to get people rolling on that challenge.
Wow. Never underestimate a working lunch. Really well done. Awesome. So you made an adjustment here too. Awesome. All right. Team 6. All right. welcome.
So we went a little crazy here and went off the list of extra activities or extra options instead of what was on the box. What really triggered with us was let's make a bigger bang together. It's how can we increase the opportunities that 1% exists already and what they're doing. And not only how can we increase it, but how can we increase it exponentially. So when you're thinking of a Big Bang Theory, you're thinking what is the earliest, smallest point that you can start and a chain reaction will explode. So thousands of years ago, when the first 1% purchase was made, no. So what we'll start with is one consumer. So one consumer's first purchase of a product that's through a company that's a 1% company. And our motto is 1 to 1 billion. So one consumer to 1 billion in donations through 1%. And the idea is that we're incentivizing it and creating a way for individual customers to become individual 1% members. There's 3, I think, in existence now. I'm sure everyone in here now is more interested that's not as a business, including myself. And I think that that interest level would go across a lot of the customers of the companies that are involved with this. So there's sort of 2 steps initially to get that type of reach out to the customer. So when they make a first purchase of a 1% company of a product, the first step would be that you involve them immediately by providing them with some sort of action item right then at the purchase that they could have the potential to electronically choose where the 1% from their purchase or purchases are going to go to. There'd be some sort of system through an electronic website or an app that would allow them to choose maybe a geographic area and a certain nonprofit or some effect of that where they get to choose. So you're automatically triggering their involvement. You're giving them a vested interest. Through that, you're sort of explaining to them what 1% is and the value of it. The second step, which is how to activate them, would be if they choose to make that donation, then their email is somehow entered into a system, and within 24 hours, 48 hours, they get an email, and that email thanks them for making a purchase, provides some sort of format information from 1%, and then has a link that provides them the opportunity to become an individual member of 1% and how to do that. So we did some rough but conservative numbers we learned from Patagonia pretty well here. So approximately 1,400 companies, currently 1% companies. We did a pretty conservative estimate of, let's say, 1,000 customers on average annually to those companies. That's probably conservative. And an average mean of consumers of 40,000. So you're looking at 1.4 million customers a year with 40,000 mean income. So that's $400 per year. That adds up to 560 million in just the individual 1%ers that would be contributing. Now, we sort of went a little further with the math, and there's the discussion of through the 1% for the planet, that 1% has, what was the effect?
The Venturian
effect. The Venturian effect, that money has more value. So essentially, they're looking at a conservative estimate of 10 times the dollar of that value of nonprofits. So 560 million times 10. We're way over $1 billion. So let's make a bigger bang together, more individuals, 1 to 1 billion. Ideas for getting this out, total content marketing, the main thing, however, being the opportunity for the consumer to make elections at the time of purchase, and then a follow-up email. The follow-up email sort of goes to grassroots tactics, because then if you did it geographically, and we're sort of going to jump on Team 4's idea here, we had some similar ideas, is that then locally, if the store then has a local geographic nonprofit range, but also other opportunities depending on their consumer's choice. It's pretty easy with the influencers here. They're the existing voices, brand, and individuals, as well as local nonprofits. They all have the power to exist and get out there and get the word out about this and educate. The other thing, though, is that then you're making the consumers themselves the influencers, which is pretty neat. And that's the idea, is that if they have a vested interest, if they have that opportunity, that they're probably then going to be more interested. Grassroots tactics, as mentioned, sort of options for allocation, both locally and abroad. And we also agreed, because you're looking at 2 different buyer groups. You have the adults, the professionals, but then you have children who are a huge buyer group, but they're probably not going to become individual members without making any money, or maybe they'll donate 1% of their allowance at the age of 15. Who knows? But a way to counter that inability that youth would have would be that if youth were making purchases, there would be 1% opportunities to be allocated towards after school programs, youth programs, something they had a connection with. So you sort of trick them into coming full circle. They make a donation to a local program, they go do an activity with a local program, they then have that interest in the outdoors, that vested interest. So once they are making money, they know about the 1% program and then have interest to become an individual member themselves.
Wow. Great. Great insights on scalability. So you guys tapped the Big Bang idea. Awesome. Wow. All right, team 7. All right. Very thoughtfully done. That was great. You guys got a big posse. Wow. There you go, Megan. Cool.
All right. So our initial message was, where is that? Sorry. It's a matter of give. It's a matter of life and earth. And in thinking about what we talked about today, the images we've seen up here, a lot of that was based in action. And so, of course, 1% for the planet is giving dollars, but we want to encourage everybody to give of their time as well. And letting folks, kind of breaking down the walls to philanthropy. There can be kind of maybe an elitist perspective of that. You have to have money to give it. Well, we all have some time that we can give. We have our sweat and our hard work we can give. So it's a call to action in that way. And just the way the numbers broke down, because we're focused in the workplace here, we're looking at just under 3 workdays is, 2,080 hours is a full-time equivalent. So just over 20 hours of your time in a year would be put towards environmental work. So how does that happen? We would just dig into the nonprofits we've already connected with on a local grassroots level, doing wildlands restoration or urban gardens work. Really the focus would be to get outside, unplug, get some dirt running through your hands and get messy. That the company would kind of curate options, let their customers decide where they wanted to put their time. So that was kind of the event component of this idea. Then we had online advertising and packaging as some other ways to activate. Of course, we would encourage individuals and the nonprofits that we're connecting with for these days of action to create a lot of content surrounding a hashtag that we weren't so great at coming up with, but we had some ideas, just 1% of my time. Very simply, what did you do with 1% of your time today? And
that's great.
You could translate that story. Mini films, Facebook Live, Snapchat, geofilters, blog posts, just kind of the usual online suspects or media suspects. Anything else, you guys? We didn't really get to packaging. Not all of us had a product that we packaged, so wasn't quite as tangible as the other ideas. So.
I mean, your insight about expanding the potential of giving is great.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
Yeah, taking kind of that armchair activism idea and getting people outside and doing it.
And it invites everyone. Mm-hmm. I think a really, really good insight.
Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right, team 8. Where are we? On their way down. 1% of my time is a great hashtag. I think that would be very, very compelling. All right, you're up. Look at that wall. It's growing.
All right, so this is Carrie, team 8, Carrie, Lindsay, Paul, and I'm Ryan. So we were, kind of grappling around, giving. Let's see, give. It's a matter of life and earth, and how do you boil that down? And what kind of boiled out of that, kind of not necessarily linearly, was the idea of 1% is money, right? And money has such a big impact on action, and money creates actionable activities. And I think one of the we thought one of the benefits of 1% for the planet is you've curated these companies that and curated the recipients, so the companies that are giving to the recipients, and branding that kind of and boiling it down to something really simple was that allows consumers to opt in on a day-to-day basis. Every time you swipe a credit card, essentially you're voting, right? Voting with your dollar. It's kind of cliche and doesn't necessarily create a lot of unique and new impact. But let's see, what was the give to the one you love? Essentially covers the whole supply chain of that, of that concept. So the one could be the company that you're buying a product from that you love. That's also the one you might love that's the recipient of the company that gives to, it's providing the dollars to the recipient. It could also, the one could be Earth, the planet. So kind of, it's a little bit loose in what one means to you, but it encompasses the entire, spectrum of what's going on here. In terms of how to boil that down, hashtag the one you love, and that could really play well in social media. Every time you make a purchase with a company, maybe come across a volunteer opportunity that's part of being a recipient for 1% for the planet, and just tagging that whenever the opportunity comes up. In-store signage, if you're a retailer that sells multiple brands, you can have end caps and really kind of highlight the brands that are part of 1% for the planet. If you're online, you can have banners and really tag products and do various advertising around that. And with print advertising, which was our third component, magazines and that type of thing, just to have like a template where you can drop your brand in there, and at the bottom of that template, have an aggregate number. In 2016, 1% for the planet as an aggregate gave X millions of dollars, and kind of touch on that concept of together. Alone, it doesn't feel like we can have much impact, but together, it's incredible what we can accomplish.
Right on. It's really great. One of the simple and elegant things here is that you created a rebus where it's a combination of word and type and image, and by putting this in here, it really allows all that combination of what you love to come together. It's really, really well done. It's very simple and clear.
I promised Paul I wouldn't give him credit, so.
Yeah. Great stuff. All right, team 9. All right, right on. Another team of 2, a dynamic duo.
Yes, we had more. Their names are all on there.
Awesome, great, cool.
So our conversation evolved around the idea of care as a rallying cry. One of our members, Morgan, has been thinking a lot about, love for marriage equality, or hope for Obama, resist against the current president. And so as our conversation evolved around care as a rallying cry, we just had all these ideas and came up with the hashtag Share Your Care. And our intention was kind of a social media campaign and an events campaign that would, around a caring economy, yes. In part, we were talking about how the sharing economy has become so popular. So could we take it to the next level and call it the caring economy? And so a social media campaign where, you share your care, and that sharing of your care would be framed around the open-ended questions, who, what, when, where, why, how, do you share your care? And then really, inviting that storytelling and that sharing. And then it would also be like a series of events that include visual storytelling, the arts, media, dance, music, to really bring the community together to share our care. And then we also came up with the mascots. Instead of packaging, we kind of went a little off the box in a couple areas here, but our mascots are the radical Care Bears. They're like really fierce because they're so tender and they care. And so actually, if you go back to the other side then, so once you share your care, the next hashtag is care is radical. Care is revolutionary. Care is resistance. And so trying to find a fusion of that tenderness of the care and the love that we feel with the ferocity of this fight that we have to fight. So
Does that cover it, I think?
Yeah, and I think the whole idea about having it be hopeful, because I think there's so much to get down on today's society, and it's like rallying around caring and rallying around the hope and things that we can do was really what we wanted it to be important. And it's just a simple call to action about doing the right thing and caring.
Radical care is a great idea.
Radical Care Bears.
Radical Care Bears. Radical Care Bears fighting the nemesis of apathy in the world. That's awesome. Great stuff. Team 10. There you are. I like this. We went off the box as becoming a theme. Like we're off the box radicals.
We're a little nervous about that.
Oh, very good.
I don't think we quite got the instructions, but we're going to let Kyle.
Hi there. I'm Kyle. This is Stephanie, and Nate helped us out, but he had to leave. We did go off the box, but we focused a lot on the purpose and the event. So the purpose we decided on, and that was based on waste management and recycling and the community's need to have that infrastructure. Sorry, I'm very nervous. So the way we would do that is to leverage what people are doing already. One thing that a lot of people do is take a lot of pictures on their phone, share them on social media, and they throw things away. So the way you can leverage that is to get people encouraged to share their lack of a recycling infrastructure through social media just by taking pictures of trash cans with a mix of food waste and plastics and all that, and then get 1% companies to donate in a big nationwide contest for that event. And sorry, again. So thank you. All right. So the 1% members would incentivize people to share their images. You'd have a nationwide contest, and that would tell you what community is already engaged and needs that infrastructure. That would tell you where the event needs to be hosted. Then we would work with the local government and waste management facilities to host an event and show people how to recycle. The event would aggregate all those images that were collected throughout the social media campaign and then turn something that is ugly and needs to be fixed into a giant collage that could be posted up on the building to make something beautiful. And that would be the backdrop for the event, which would allow people in the community to come out and see how to recycle, which would be bolstered by the local government's involvement and the waste management's involvement. And then to get more people out there, and this is the going radical type of thing, this issue has been eclipsed by social norms. So we want to eclipse the issue with hot air balloons out there, draw a big crowd, cover up the sun, and then whenever everybody's out there, reveal what's going on and get the community involved. So, let's see.
Big and radical.
Thanks.
Great stuff. One of the things that's solid on this is your commitment to education.
Yeah.
So clearly you're taking on something that is about a cultural need for really understanding what's happening in recycling because it's very complicated. Absolutely. State to state, it's very different.
The local government and a waste management facility to bolster that and allow the community to recycle. Otherwise, they don't have an option.
Exactly. Right on.
Even in Denver.
Good thought. Even in Denver. All right, team 11. There you go. Welcome.
Thank you. Michael, Joe, the rest of the team are hiding. We had a wonderful free-ranging discussion around our theme, which was, what was our theme? Together we are the EPA. So we kind of all talked about that for a little bit, and it was interesting because there's a number of different reactions that you have when you talk about the EPA. So we talked about those. Anyway, to cut a long story short, we finally coalesced around a couple of we thought quite interesting conceptual ideas. One was the ability to keep this as a local event. So if we take that premise that we are all responsible, we're all stewards for the environment, and we take that to the very base level, we thought that people could really equate on a local level. So trying to encourage people to think about the things that they do in their normal lives, but to have that on a very local level. For example, we talked a lot about paper straws. We thought, when I was a kid, which is a long time ago, paper straws were pretty much the norm, and they were useless. You couldn't really use them for much. But they're devoid from the landscape now, and they've been replaced by, we think, cheaper equivalents. So things like that, where you're able to get, as an individual, you're able to have some sort of response with something that may be, very simple, but in aggregate, it has a huge impact. Yes, we'll get to that. Eventually, that thought did coalesce around this, and it was Joe's idea to coalesce around this concept of my 1%. We worked that out. It's 14.4 minutes, about 15 minutes a day. So we thought, it's easy to come up with something that's good for the environment or good for you or makes you feel good about your local environment for 15 minutes. Some of the ideas that we had for influencers, we thought that coming up with very simplistic looping videos of a stream with a voiceover which says something to the effect of, "Would you drink this water?" really allows people to have a sort of a visceral reaction or non-reaction with the fact that they don't want to drink dirty water, they want to drink clean water. Maybe having celebrities have a cameo appearance talking about a stream or talking about a particular program that they're interested in. The other thing was sports teams. This country is nuts on sports. If you're able to get a football team like the Denver Broncos to donate 1% to the planet, wow, what an impact that would have. 80,000 people go to a football game every week. What an impact you could have if those people just thought outside of the box for their 15 minutes. I think that covers it.
Yeah, no, I think that covers it. Nice job. Well done. My 1%, very, very insightful idea. And that would be a sports team is a really, really powerful thought as well. What is it, team 12? 12. All right. This is pretty amazing. That is a throbbing wall of ideas. Pink Floyd's going to play later.
Hello, I'm Trina. This is Shannon, and we had one other, but she had to leave. We also had Together We Are the EPA, and I have to say we got a little lost in the weeds because the EPA has such a polarizing connotation. Either you like it or you don't. It's been politicized. And so we felt like it would be a challenge for 1% for the planet, at least, to adopt that full on. It would be radical, but you might lose half of the population around that using such a polarizing concept. So we wondered whether there would be any appetite to take the concept that Patagonia has made popular with the worn wear and revitalize an old slogan of 1% for the planet, which was keeping Earth in business. So then we spent the rest of lunch talking kind of about that and about how we could take the good side or the all positive side of, we're all in this together and maybe bring it to life with that keeping Earth in business slogan. So Shannon's going to talk about the ideas that we had there.
Thank you. So with that, how are we going to market this? There is a quote that says, "We don't inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children." So kind of taking that and playing off children, challenges, their future, and what does the future business economy look like? So on social media, starting off with challenges with maybe kids' birthday parties. So instead of consuming or having birthday presents, they are doing a food drive, or they are doing a cleanup or a restoration project. So having some type of birthday challenge that is started on social media. And then in store, kind of taking that and having pictures of parents in their business suits with their sleeves rolled up, and then their kiddos, and they're down at the local river or lake, and they're picking plastic bottles out of the water. So really trying to capture and touch the emotion of the kids, and this is the future that we have, with the parents buying in. With print advertisement, then kind of having before and afters. So we have the picture, the before of the stream, the after of the stream. And then we could fast forward 20 years when that child is now its parent working with its kids, and almost having this, the future of what could be, or the future of what might be if we don't make a change. And then that touches the emotion, but then having charts and graphs of keeping the earth in business, of data, like how many gallons of water can we conserve? How much energy can we conserve by going to electric cars versus fossil fuel cars? How much sustainable farming or a reduction in food waste can we have by utilizing gardens instead of lawns? And so just kind of having data with graphs and then also pictures. So keeping the earth in business.
Well done. A nice second installment in the youth side of things. That was a really good insight. And another component of this that's intriguing is the keeping earth in business is, there's some risk of business being seen as evil. And business, when it's in the right hands, as we all know, is certainly something that can cause incredible good in the world. So really insightful, but it's nice to see another youth-oriented one. Team 13. Yeah. Lucky Team 13.
There is no Team 13.
Right, there is no Team 13.
I'm Italian. We don't usually use microphones, but okay. So we are Team 13. I'm Michelle, Catherine, and Scott. We had the slogan together, "We are the EPA," and we sat around and talked about that, and kind of what we came up with in looking at the history of the EPA is that we've always been the EPA. The EPA was born out of resistance on the 1969 oil spill in Santa Barbara, and there was a call to action, and 20 million people marched on the first Earth Day. And after that, Nixon and his regime decided to create the EPA to kind of give a voice to the 20 million people. So we were saying, you can't take away something that we, the people, started, and that was born from resistance. So we thought that we should remind people of the history of the EPA, that we've always been it, and that instead of allowing the government to carry the torch for us, we needed to take it back and carry it ourselves. And so we came up with some different ways that we could do this, and we thought that we could create newsletters. And the newsletters would kind of touch on the history of who why the EPA was born and what that resistance was from. And it would have citizens called to action to carry the torch now. We'd touch on another newsletter which would say that it's a fundamental right and that we would carry that torch. We then would have another one that would let them know that now that we are the EPA and we're taking it back, how we could do that. And we talked about with the national funding being a void, an app could be created to let people know where the voids are, and we could have 1% help create an app that would connect them with nonprofits that now will not have funding to do what the good that they were doing for the earth. And that this app would allow people to either give 1% of their profits or their individual earnings, or give 10% of their time, which we also figured out to be 15 minutes. And it would link them to nonprofits that were doing the better good, and also the companies using in the 1% network, using those nonprofits to give their portion of their profits to, so that if someone were going to go out and shop, maybe they didn't have time to volunteer, or they couldn't give the 1% themselves, they would know that shopping at Patagonia gave 1% of your profits to this, this organization that was needing it. And we talked a lot about the influencers, the voters, consumers, congresspeople, donors to nonprofits, business owners as buyers, the citizen scientists, kind of getting people to get out there and do the work of the scientist and volunteer their time, volunteers, retirees, and then we said estate planners, but we're talking about the people of 1969 and the people of 1970, those 20 million people who went out and marched and who kind of did this, and now they're older and planning for their estate and where their money's going to go, and re-engaging them to help teach the younger generation, but also give part of that back so that the planet can sustain after they're no longer here. We had grassroots tactics that we came up with, phone call campaigns, town halls, and then 1% could attend the Earth Days in all the different cities and reconnect people to what the EPA was originally intended to be and what they could do to help with the planet going forward now that we were carrying the torch. And again, a drive to do volunteer 1% or 1% of your profit or 10% of your time.
Well done. Legacy and technology. This one there's gamification has come up a few times, and technology use that's sort of measuring and tracking and creating visual executions you can see, but that's a really nice example of that. So team 14. Good to see you.
Thanks, Michael. Hello, my name's Eric. This is Stu. We are also a meager team of 2. So what we decided to do is really try and think about how we could leverage what's already happening with 1% and do that both thematically using the number 1, and also to think about the networks that already exist in our family already, and as that continues to grow, that expands. So we had the kind of this one, and we decided to go a little different direction and really focus on that number 1. So our kind of headline is 1 planet, 1 purpose, 1%. And you got the alliteration component there. You kind of build off the 1% brand, but then you also are able to connect like the biggest, exactly what's happening with the giving, the reason behind that, and really the effect of how that giving makes a difference. So that's kind of our headline. We had a few different hashtags that kind of go along with that. The power of 1. We had another one that I like, which is what's your power, or just power of 1. You want to flip it? And we kind of loosely followed the guide for the various like executional elements of this. Kind of in line with Team 7, which was talking about 1% of time. We thought about the idea of either companies having 1% of their employees' time be donated to some form of environmental service, or even having an event that would be hosted by 1% that would be almost like a member engagement activism summit, which is, a 3-day summit would be 1% of your time of the year. We also took rather than focus on online advertising, we thought about the network of brands that are already out there. And when you purchase from a 1% company, hopefully the hang tag or whatever the communication is, like hopefully that's apparent, but a lot of times it's not. It's like a hidden component, and people may or may not know that they're giving that or giving to a company that's donating back. And so, like having an add to your cart button that would potentially be, depends on whether you're a member company or a member nonprofit, but you could have that one thing be a tree or a seed pod or an hour that you give back or one something. And that could be something that you add to your cart that either you are paying for or that the company that you're buying from or that you're contributing to is committing to. So that ties back to the one theme. And then kind of in line with that, 1% for the planet could orchestrate a big campaign where you think about this idea of power of one. Maybe there's a hang tag, and each member company interprets the power of one differently and has that hang tag draw people back to a massive campaign, digital campaign that illustrates all the different one things, the one tree, the 1 hour, the one whatever, and puts all those in one place and allows people to basically visit a page where they can see all of the good work that's happening in one place.
Aggregation. Nice. That's solid. The token idea, or having that online component where you could have that 1 point effect, that's a really good insight. Very cool. Team 15. All right. The band's all here.
So hi, I'm Colette, and this is my team. We have Nicole, John, and Lisa over here. I'm going to start, and then John will fill in all of the gaps. And I will say, just as Team 15, we noticed it was becoming progressively harder to deliver a new and unique idea at this point in time. But we'll do our best, even though Team 14 was clearly eavesdropping on our brainstorming earlier. So some of the teams focused a lot on tactics and did a really nice job with that. We focused a little bit more on the concept of a campaign. And so our idea was to create this only one campaign. And our prompt for that would be, what is our only planet worth to you? We felt like that touched, immediately kind of ascribed value to the planet, but also spoke to the urgency of the environmental crisis that we face. It's clearly relevant and accessible because we're asking somebody for their perspective. And then, of course, there's the simplicity and the tie-in with the 1% branding. So we're asking that you share your only one planet story. And we can turn this forward. Awesome. Okay, so the hashtag, it's hashtag only one planet. Again, we feel like we're speaking to the matrix that you so kindly gave us. So we have the sense of worth that speaks to give. Planet is clearly in our ask together. So our campaign is story-based, or based in storytelling, which is inherently a communal activity. So as we ask people to share their stories, the implication is that somebody actually wants to listen to them. And we're asking people to be smart, not just telling good stories. We want their one planet story. So there's a sense of intentionality behind that. And then accelerate. We're asking for positive stories, so we want to kind of turn the tide from any sort of negativity around environmental and social activism to the sense of positivity, and then play into network theory through our tactics. So we were going to target, as influencers, CSR managers, or people working in corporate giving in small and medium-sized businesses, and then industry associations as well. We had an idea in terms of grassroots tactics to use geofencing around trade shows and corporate business parks to really make sure that we're targeting the people that we want to reach, and asking them to share their, asking them what the planet is worth to them and to share their only one planet story. And then, of course, new 1% members could easily turn that question around, ask it of their nonprofit partners or prospective partners, ask it of their customers, and then easily share that content through their newsletters, through social media, with everybody else in their network. And the nice thing about storytelling, it's really dynamic, and so it can lend itself to visual storytelling or a podcast, audio, as well as, of course, written content.
I think one of the biggest keys to this concept is the target audience. While I really like the ideas of hitting the youth and fostering that energy at an early stage where it just grows with the children, we're going after the people that have already been beaten down. We want to go after those SCR managers and business decision managers in those middle and even larger companies. We want to normalize the idea of giving 1%, and eventually get this to be only 1% for our only planet. We think that that might sound a little brash out of the gates, because as you all know, only 1% is not, it's 1%. That's like a lot of money, and it's a lot of money for a lot of us to be giving. But once we normalize it, it just becomes only 1% for our only planet.
That's nice. I think flipping the script to the question, really good insight. That was a good doorway in. Very good. All right. And Team 16. You're 17? There's no 16. All right. Well, here you go. You're 17. Straight out of Vermont. Skinny baby. All right. Cool. Yeah.
I'm Brittany, and this is Michael, and our other partner, Robert. So we had a blank box, and wild card box. And so we decided to take the approach of bringing in the third piece of the puzzle, which is generally the consumer, well, always the consumer, that makes 1% for the planet actually happen. So how do you educate them and how do you involve them to keep 1% going? Because we depend on the consumer for that. So as a retail manager, we strive to educate our customers, and sometimes that's really difficult. And so what we did was create a tagline here of "Your input matters," because we need to know what our consumer cares about to make this work. And so we created a campaign, a social media campaign, to get the nonprofits that we work with involved in the process so that they can feel good about receiving money from businesses and that we can in turn give it to them happily. And so a nonprofit social media takeover, having the nonprofits take over the company's social media for a day, and maybe 3 or 4 of them, and creating a contest so that they can choose to, so we can decide to give to them, and so that other people can vote and say, hey, I want to give to this nonprofit, and really hear from your consumer for that. And then also getting them involved in the store or online. So what we do at Mountain Sports, which is the store that I manage, is we give our customers a token, and they get to take that to the front door and choose where they want their 1% going. And half of them don't even know that they've donated to something. And so when you give them that token, it gives them the empowerment to say, oh my gosh, I'm involved in something bigger, and I get to give to something bigger. So we give them that token, they vote, and now they feel like, I'm going to come back because I'm giving to the environmental crisis. And so doing that for our customer by giving them the token, and then having in-store signage so that they can read about it as they're shopping and know that, wow, this is something that we can give to. So really empowering the customer to be involved, that in turn helps 1% actually be 1%.
Mm-hmm. Nice. An analog idea. There you go. Hands-on. Your input matters. Wow. So that's a beautiful wall of brilliant ideas. This is amazing. You guys did really, really well. So a round of applause for everyone. Hopefully you had fun with this. I know it was a lot to ask to have this launch during your lunch and everything, but clearly everyone came through because you care. You're radical care bears. And there's a lot of really beautiful and potent ideas here. The couple of things that we want to point out, all of this will be photographed, documented. We will go through every detail. Your work will absolutely be respected. We will find things within this that will emerge in the world. We may call you with some questions as that comes together. But I think everybody should be really, really proud of this. It's a beautiful kind of third mind thing that happened. We're going to keep these up during happy hour. So as you socialize and talk, we actually have one last technique that we play with, which is just some stickers. We have little color dot stickers. So if you want to have some drinks and chat and look at some of the ideas and read a little more closely, you can put stickered dots on things that you think are cool, like this is a good idea, or let's look at this further. So if you really have love for something, just put a dot or two on it and let us know, and it'll help us track in the editing. And we'll have those stickers available near the boxes. And with that, thank you, and I'm going to hand it to Kate to take us home.
Awesome. So we are almost done here. And I just want to thank you so much. Thank you for showing up today, for being here, for being passionate, for bringing your care, for bringing your sense of the crisis, for bringing your smarts, for bringing your knowledge that we need to go much bigger. Several of you have said today, or the ideas that you shared today really conveyed your interest in saying, yeah, this is great, 1% is great, we need to do so much more, and thank you for showing up in that way, because that's a really important part of being a network, is being able to say, hey, this is great, but we can do more. So thank you for bringing that spirit here today. Thanks to the people who helped us be creative, Michael and Paula. Thank you for the singing. We had music today. We had so many great different aspects of the day. It feels like, when I think back to this morning, it feels like 5 years ago. So in a great way, in a really good way. So anyway, huge thanks. This is a great moment for us. We really do look forward to doing more of this. And we, as Michael said, we will definitely not forget anything on these boxes or a word that was said here today. This is all such great grist for the mill for us to take back and share back with you in other ways. So one last thing before we go into our happy hour time is we do want to get a photo of our members who are here up on stage. And so there are many of you who are members, and I want to say too, for our individual members, we started the day with 3 in the audience, 3 of 100, I should say. We actually have 100. We have 4 today. Someone signed up right now. So we would love to welcome our newest member in addition on stage. And for those of you who are here who you know that you're going to take that step, we would also love to welcome you up on stage. So we'll do a photo up here with our members, and then we're going to do a photo with everyone on stage. So can we have all the members up on stage right now? And is that going to work for you? Yeah. Okay, well, it's going to take a little while for everyone to get on stage here. All right. You can hold a box. We can maybe put, yeah. Yeah, that's good. Or even put it like right up in the front.
Okay. Here I go.
It's difficult to tell who walked in. Some other people be in the front this time?
Yeah.
Yeah, like we could do more than that. We're just kids.
So I did a lot of, yeah.
My social media photographer
Taller. Thank you very much. Really, very smart.
Good. It means a lot coming for you because you're smart.
We'll talk.
That'd be great.
We'll talk. I'll be calling you.
That'd be awesome.
I'm a little shorter.
Good job.
In the front.
We haven't met Andrew.
Hey. Oh, hey.
Yes, to finally meet you.
Yeah.
Slide behind me.
How'd it go? Is everything going well?
Yeah, really well.
All right.
I made the cutoff, huh?
This is our newest member, joined right now. Woohoo!
Thank you.
Not to put you on the spot or anything. But. All right, so there's a lot of photographers, but the really important photographer is right there waving at us.
I'm going to have to take a couple of photos and put them together into one. So just try and stay still. Okay.
Wait, we're not there yet.
And the important